Welcome to episode 3 of our Cutting Edge podcast. I am absolutely thrilled this morning that we have a real pioneer of the social media in surgery and social media in healthcare movement, Professor Julio Mayol. We'll be talking about a variety of things, and I'm really hoping that you're going to get to know Julio a lot better. You're also going to be able to understand a little bit about the evolution of social media, but also understand a little bit more about the person as well. As usual, I have my host with me, Dr. Venkatesh Munikrishnan, and we'll hopefully be getting a good chat again as we have done in the previous episode. So welcome, Julio, and thank you very much for joining us.
Welcome, Julio.
Thank you very much, Manish, and thank you very much, Venki. I think this is a great opportunity to see beyond what we see on our screens, just on our timelines. I think that is interesting. We are people and we need to express ourselves and get in contact with others in order to develop surgery further.
Well, no, I think that thank you very much for joining us this morning. Venki, how are you this morning?
Good. It's about 4 o'clock in Chennai, and it's the weather's looking good. So yeah.
Well, excellent. Okay, well, without further ado, let's move on. But for all the viewers out there, please hit the subscribe channel. You're able to then get additional content, as well as hopefully join us for some chats personally, but also get access to all the videos and trailers in the Cutting Edge series. So, Julio, we know you, I suppose, mostly from your work, both in the academic literature, but also popularizing social media in surgery. And that's been absolutely huge in recent years. I mean, we've seen it in every aspect of healthcare, and we've seen it in wider society as well. But what I really want to get into this morning is, let's hear a little bit about you. What were you doing before social media? Where did this passion come from? Many will not even know that you are a colorectal surgeon. So tell us a little bit about that journey that led you to this point.
Thank you, Manish, for that question. I think it's important to explain that I'm not only on Twitter, that something happened to me for many years before I reached this point. I decided to become a surgeon when I was 5, and with no previous history of surgery in my family. It does not run in my blood. I'm a dirty blood person in terms of surgery. Then I studied here in Madrid. I studied medicine, and I started my residency training. And when I was a third-year resident, Julio Garcia Aguilar, who you may know, came back from the United States after getting his retraining at the Beth Israel Deaconess Medical. At that time, it was the Beth Israel Hospital in Boston, and then in Minneapolis, and with a fellowship. So he influenced me a lot. And then when I was a 4-year resident, he helped me to go to the Beth Israel, where I met Jeff Matthews and Richard Hoden. And I spent 3 months in a rotation there. And then I decided to went back to Boston when I was done with my residency. And I became a research fellow in surgery at Harvard Medical School. I did a lot of basic research. I published in the American Journal of Physiology, for example, understanding how ammonia affected colorectal epithelial cells in terms of chloride secretion and barrier function. It was an amazing experience, and when I came back, I set up my own lab here in Madrid, and at the same time I developed my career as a surgical oncologist and colorectal surgeon. And those influences, Julio Garcia Aguilar and Jeff Matthews, are critical for what I have become later in life, because my experience at Harvard and my experience with T84 cells and cell culture showed me that we are networks, that we are connected, and that we can be observed, can be analyzed, and if you connect with the right people, you can generate tremendous things, tremendous success, and beautiful things. And that's how my life started. I came back for 10 years. I had my own lab. It was funded by the Spanish National Institute of Health. But after 10 years, Jeff Matthews fellows decided that we should abandon basic research and moved into technology, because even in the 21st century, we still use basically the same technology we were using 200 years ago to basically do the same things. And we started to think that we should push technology forward if we wanted to modernize surgery. And Jeff Matthews was inspiration for that. So much of what I have achieved is due to the influence of my mentors, especially Julio Garcia Aguilar and Jeff Matthews.
So it's interesting that we've had this discussion before in London in the last year or two, where you've used this analogy of the cell culture work that you did and your observation in looking at how cells reacted under the microscope with how human beings react. And you know, you allude to it now in this discussion of networks. And to tell us a little bit more about that. Tell us how you view, I don't know, Brownian motion and human behavior.
Yeah, it is very interesting, because basically cells are the basic bricks of life. I mean, but they have their own machinery. They try to connect with each other in order to cooperate to generate tissue, or in cell culture is a monolayer. And when you observe them with the right tools, you can see them connect, then you can stimulate them and they generate a response, an impact. We just measure it and we publish. That's what we do with cell culture. Graham Mackenzie also explains this. He has also seen this analogy between social networks and social media and cell culture. But for us, it's the same. It depends on the distance of the observation. If you focus from a distance, you see human people, people interacting and collaborating in order to generate something that many times is very valuable. Sometimes it can be dangerous, of course, but for surgery, for our craft, our work, collaboration can be extremely fruitful. And now we use a different tool to measure that. First, Rebecca Grossman has published on this. First, we connect, then we infect the network, and people get motivated and engaged, and then finally we end up having an impact. And we see this with different tools. We have Twitter analytics, Twitonomy, or simpler, and those tools allow us to analyze data, to extract knowledge from something that doesn't seem to have anything to do with surgery, but it is very relevant to extract tacit knowledge from our social interactions. And surgeons, we have disregarded that because we're very concerned with technique, with technical skills, with how we use the suture, how we handle the right angle. But we never paid that much attention to knowledge, to personal resourcefulness, to cognitive skills needed in order to get the best result possible for our patients.
So before we continue the discussion about social media and perhaps even the pitfalls of that, let's just take it back a bit to, you come back to Madrid with this wealth of technical, innovative knowledge that you bring from your fellowship and from your work out in the States. And then where does Julio Mayol go at that point with all of this head brimming with ideas?
I was 30 something. I went back to my hospital, Hospital Clínico San Carlos, where now I serve as chief medical officer. And I started to do surgery as crazy. I worked long hours, surgeon's hours, then combining clinical work with research and also with teaching. I wanted to imitate those I admire the most. So what I did is I tried to replicate what I had seen before in the United States and also in Spain. And for between 1998 and 2006, 2007, I worked very hard to to get published, to be successful in terms of grants in order to support basic research. You know, a surgeon in Spain doing basic research, that sounds like a unicorn. I had to fight this perception of this weird guy coming back from the United States, telling us that he can do a basic research and can also spend time doing clinical work. I had a huge workload. Basically, I started laparoscopic colorectal surgery in Madrid. My doctoral thesis was about laparoscopic surgery, was on laparoscopic surgery. So I challenged many of the ideas, many of the prejudices about laparoscopic surgery and colorectal surgery. Then robotics were initiated at my hospital, 2006. So I also became a robotic surgeon. I did several cases, although I don't think there's the perfect solution. It is needed. If you want to understand the future of surgery, you must be involved. You have to get engaged. You have to explore the options and then figure it out. Try to find your own conclusions. And in fact, we published a meta-analysis on robotic surgery in the Annals of Surgery in 2010. So technology has started to play a major role in the development of my career. So initially it was basic research, then technology. And because of my exposure to the Beth Israel Harvard Medical School environment, I became like this very, how to put it? It was this creative destruction of anything. But I tried to find the weaknesses of any solution in order to make it better. That's how my brain works. I don't want to exclude anything. I am very open-minded, but I want to find the weaknesses of every solution because there is no perfect solution. So I abandoned gradually basic research and moved into technology, image-guided surgery, gamma cameras to identify sentinel lymph nodes in colorectal cancer. I explored many different options. I worked hard, and then in 2010, I became the chief of the division of colorectal surgery at Hospital Clínico San Carlos. And in 2011, I was appointed professor of surgery at Universidad Complutense de Madrid. So all my investment, my personal investment, which was fine with me because that's what I wanted, paid off because I achieved a level that helped me make decisions about what myself, and the team around me, the direction that I wanted to take. So I am very fortunate that first I was exposed to these people, that I was able to see how they think, because I'm more interested in how they think and what they do than in anything else, because I learned a lot from observing others. That's my nature.
Great. Julio, I mean, you put it simply saying that I worked hard. We all understand what hard work means, and and it's important. There are several points which you brought out. One was finding your mentors, and I think that made a big impact. And the environment, you could have sat in Madrid, but you went to the United States. You exposed yourself to that environment where it got into your head, like, yeah, this is the kind of cutting edge stuff you should be doing. And also you kept up with time when you said, okay, basic science, I've done my time, but there's technology which is booming, in the 2000, 2010, I think you got onto it. And coming on to the next big part of your life, if I may say, is social media, because social media has changed the way we connect, communicate, disseminate knowledge, and has become instrumental for learning these days. So, could you share your experience and how you got into this space and technically driving it, at least in the field of colorectal surgery?
Um, Very good question. Thank you. Let me reflect on this. If I step back, I see that I went from the microscopic to the macroscopic. But basically, I've been doing exactly the same. It's trying to understand the challenges that life poses to all of us. And human interactions are key in order to find responses. You cannot do it just by yourself. It is impossible. You need the help of others, mentors, colleagues, collaborators, students. Even when you are a professor, students teach you a lot. And then social media is just a way to expand your environment. Is not being just bound by geographical or time limits. Is that you can understand others' perspectives. If you speak two languages, that helps a lot, because language is culture. And if you can understand two languages, then your world completely changes. And social media has allowed me to learn much more than I could have learned just using conventional methods. So I started on Twitter on 2009 just to follow Jeff Matthews. Because it was the way to be linked to him. And since there are like 7 hours time difference between Madrid and Chicago, it was critical for me to learn what he was doing, because I had that need. And Twitter was the tool to solve that need. But as I started using it, I realized that it's not only a way to get information. It's also a way to exchange ideas, thoughts, and knowledge, which is more important. Because then if I understand how others think, then I can apply what they think after adapting it to my own circumstances to solve my own problems. And that is extremely, extremely important. I think that it is a completely a life-changing experience for me. I'm a different person, and I think that I have improved as a result of using social media, because now I'm more open. I understand others' perspective. I know that nothing is right or wrong, exactly right or wrong, because I read it, because it was published. I need to hear what others have to say about it. Of course, there are risks, and we can speak about risks later. But first of all, as human beings, we process information and then we generate knowledge. And social media is a very useful tool to do that.
So, if somebody is just new to this space, social media, there are several platforms. And as a young surgeon, where should they start off, and how should they use it?
Uh, I would recommend to use 2 mainly. If you're a trainee or a young surgeon trying to connect with others. LinkedIn, for sure, and Twitter. And who should I follow? Follow first those people you really know offline. It's very easy. You just start following them. Then connect with organizations, institutions, journals who share relevant information about your field. It's very easy. And then when you know the people and you get used to the platform, then start having conversations. Probably the first thing that you can do is just tweet about articles, a link with an article, and you give your opinion and you try to tag others who might be interested in having a conversation with you related to that link, to that article. Then as you get more used to the tool, then you can start having more or deeper conversations about issues. And just try to be nice. Don't try to judge others. And if you really stick to the surgical world, it's really difficult to run into problems. And we are humans. We make mistakes, but we can fix them. And remember, Twitter is not that a big deal. If you make a mistake, it will go away in 1 or 2 days, unless it is a huge mistake, unless you really call names, you call people names, bad names, or you do something extreme. But if you just think that you have made a mistake, don't worry. It goes away as quickly as we can tweet and retweet others.
So, Julio, I mean, you've very eloquently described the huge advantages and perhaps even how to navigate into the world of social media, and in particular on Twitter and LinkedIn. But of course, there's no such thing as a free lunch, as they say. And with the benefits, there are obviously going to be some downsides. And I suppose we can see that in the wider society of how social media can be exploited for nefarious purposes. Now, clearly, the world of medicine and surgery perhaps is not quite so nefarious, but is there a danger of powerful influencers essentially guiding and directing the conversation, whatever that may be? And are there any examples that we've come across in recent years from a downside point of view?
Yeah. Well, the danger with these platforms, with these massive platforms, is polarization. That's a problem. It's very easy to create fear. I mean, fear is a major driver for polarization, and people use it. So the problem is, if you only follow a very selected, a very small group of people that use ideology to polarize positions, that's a big problem. Then you are in an echo chamber, and that's very risky, even for scientists, even because we think that what we think is true. And that's a danger for scientists. For a scientific mind, nothing is true. Everything can be questioned. And we need, when you connect with people, you need diversity in order to understand many different perspectives. We have to be, if we want to be, we want to keep our field within this scientific world, we need to be able to question any hypothesis, to question any result. That's part of it. If you only deal in absolutes, like Master Yoda said, people who deal in absolutes may be dangerous for your social network, because nothing is black or white. There are many gray areas in between. And we need to be mature enough in order to understand that. I try to avoid not political issues in surgery and medicine in general, political, but I try to avoid ideology positions. I think that we as healthcare professionals must have our opinions about healthcare policy and what is good and bad. That's fine. What I don't want to say is I vote for Y or X. That's not a good idea.
Yeah.
Because it polarizes.
So I'll just extrapolate that argument a little bit, because you talk about in many of your lectures this idea of immediacy, and also, you know, we know from the literature the speed of transmission of fake news, for example, as well, and how quickly that can travel around the world. As Twitter is an open platform, and many people that may follow you or others or myself, Venki, may not necessarily be in our peer reviewed and somewhat controlled surgical or medical or scientific world, there'll be patients, there'll be members of the media, there'll be people that are interested in your opinion as someone with X thousand followers. So with a situation like coronavirus, for example, you may give your opinion on a mask or on social distancing, and that then becomes property of the public sphere. And you then have taken a political position somewhat indirectly whilst commenting on a medical matter, but one that is within the political sphere. So how do you navigate these more advanced difficulties? Because my understanding of the recent literature is if you have over 12,000 followers, you are designated a celebrity. So that would make you a celebrity.
Well, in fact, last night I was on national TV speaking about COVID-19, the COVID-19 crisis. I appear regularly on national TV with probably like 1 million, 2 million people listening and watching what I say. So what I try to do is avoid. I try to make very neutral comments, not blaming anyone, because I try to avoid blaming or calling people or giving names to whatever is done. What I try to do, I try to explain what is going on, what the facts are, and how I see that we should be proceeding. For example, we're in Madrid, we have a big issue. We had like the second wave, and we are not quite sure whether we're starting the third wave. So I'm not saying whether the regional government or the national government is to blame. What I say is we need a plan, we need a consistent plan, and we have to deliver. We cannot be doing one thing one day and then the opposite thing the next day because people get confused. What I try is to be coherent and then give some background information with scientific evidence to support what I say. But I try to avoid siding with one or the other political parties or whatever, because I'm the medical director of a huge hospital in Madrid. I am responsible for over 1,000 doctors at my institution. I cannot polarize them. I need to be neutral as much as I can be. Of course, I can always make mistakes. For example, for some time, I didn't recommend to use the face mask because the World Health Organization was not recommending it. Then all of a sudden they changed. So I appeared on national television and I said, I apologize, I have to swallow my words because now the evidence is different. And I think that one must be coherent and ready to acknowledge mistakes. It was not an error or something that I did to mislead people. I was basing my recommendations on World Health Organization recommendation at that time, but knowledge changes. So what one has to do is to publicly explain what was wrong and why it was wrong. And I think that if healthcare professionals don't do that, others will do it. Just because we think that keeping ourselves out of social media, things are not going to happen, is like candid, isn't it?
Okay, Julio, great conversation. Now, to follow that, I have a question for you on our current situation, which the entire globe's facing, the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. Now, that's had an impact on absolutely everyone across the world. Now, more importantly, in surgery and training. Now, our residents and trainees are with us. The patients who are coming with COVID-19 are being treated. Surgeons in some parts of the world are being sort of redrafted into going and treating these COVID-19 patients. That's one issue. The second concern we see is that the training itself is affected. And how do we compensate, or how do we deal with it? And with the experience we've learned from social media, which connects people together, and different platforms which are being incorporated on a daily basis to deal with this disconnect with seeing patients, or in clinics, for example, telemedicine has come in to play a big role. So where do you see this space going, and what are your thoughts on dealing with training?
It's a very good question. First of all, the COVID-19 pandemic is more than a healthcare crisis. It's a social crisis. It has revealed the weaknesses in our not the social media, social networks, our society, and it's also a societal crisis. And all of us are affected by this. We have COVID-19 patients who need care, and we don't have treatments for the virus. We don't have a vaccine yet. So things are not going away just because we want them to go away. Then we have COVID-19 negative patients, and many of them are surgical patients. Their procedures have been postponed. Some of them will suffer from this, and we need to figure out how to solve this problem, this complex issue, which also relates with surgical training. How our residents, our surgical trainees are exposed to a reasonable number of cases of patients to learn, to acquire the knowledge and the skills in order to practice good and safe surgery in 5 or 6 years. So there are many solutions. First of all, we need to rethink training. We need to understand how to accelerate cognitive training. There are several technological solutions in order to do that. But remember that surgical training is social. We need to be connected. Social media can be one of the technological solutions to compensate for this decline in surgical training due to COVID-19. In addition to that, we probably can take advantage of all these connections in order to, when it will become possible, send our residents to different locations to acquire the experience that they didn't get because of COVID-19. So there are technological solutions, social media being part of it, and also social solutions. Get many opportunities we have. Let's remember that there are low-income countries that need our collaboration. So probably we can try to take advantage of all of this. We need to be creative, innovative. We cannot get different results if we just repeat the same old methods.
Great answer. Great one. Manish?
So Julio, I think what are the exciting technological innovations that you see now? I mean, you've detailed a story over more than 2 decades, and a lot of the things that you mentioned, people were talking about robotics now. You were practicing this in the early 2000s. You foresaw many of the social media movements again years before they've become popular like they have done now. So what do you see? What gets you excited in over the next 5 to 10 years? Either forcing our hand through situations like the pandemic, or a need from the technology that is now available?
The technologies that I think that will make a difference in probably 5, 10 years. First of all, image-guided surgery. All these technologies to help us navigate and be very accurate and precise. Both things, accurate and precise, which is not the same. Secondly, artificial intelligence plus robotics, combination of both. Because it's not only about the technique, it's about the decision-making process. So most errors are made before we start the procedure, just because we did we made the wrong decision. So basically, this combination of artificial intelligence in robotics, I think it will transform how we practice surgery. And then social technology, trying to understand how we think, how we connect, how we create the standard of care. Nowadays, it's because of key opinion leaders and publishers that decide that this is more important than this paper is more important than this one, so it becomes popular. Key opinion leaders push forward this concept and idea instead of the other, but we don't understand that pretty well. So there's a lot of social technology and also related to IT, to information technology. So basically, again, image-guided technology, and related to that, nanotechnology and CRISPR technology in general. Second, artificial intelligence and robotics. Third, social technology, to understand how we think and how we make decisions.
Well, thanks, Julio, for this fantastic conversation. We learned a lot about your background, coronavirus, how we deal with social media. There is so much stuff people are going to get out of this interview. And guys, if you subscribe to our channel, you'll get regular updates, and maybe we'll do a live, YouTube as well, in time. So thank you, Julio, again, and Manish for joining us in this conversation, and hope to see you all soon in person.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Julio. It's been fantastic.